What was that?
It was the whiskey.
Did it break?
No, it didn't.
It scooted with you. Nothing?
Jesus, take the wheel. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Team Morale Podcast, where we do our three favorite things: talk a little bit of booze, a little bit of beer, and a whole lot of basketball. Ian the Tall Guy back with you for another podcast, and today is the day that many Team Morale listeners and fans have been waiting for almost a year now. It is another Ladies Man Tom mock draft.
And tall guy. He's also helping with the mock draft.
Yeah, but no one asked for the tall
see
guy
you
mock
every
draft.
week. They're always here.
Well, so with that being said, we welcome Ladies Man Tom, a friend of the pod. He's back again. Thomas Hunter joining us today.
Always happy to be here. It's been a minute. I'm glad to be back.
We love having you here.
I love being with you guys.
We love having you here, Tom.
I'm always glad to be here.
Yeah, so as we did last year, we will be doing another mock draft, and it'll be a similar fashion to what we did last year. Mitch and Tom will be alternating picks, and they will be doing their own mock draft. So Tom will have pick 1, and he will pick for every odd pick. And Mitch will have pick 2, and he will pick for every even pick.
Are you telling me he has the number 1 pick right now?
He does.
That seems unfair. I already have it once. I'm going to have it twice.
So that being said, so they do not know each other's selection, so they will be riffing off of each other, and we'll see where we end up. We are going through the lottery today. We'll be going picks 1 through 14 to get the lottery portion of the draft, because if we were to do the whole thing, you guys would be sitting here for a couple hours, and we don't want that.
Like last time.
Yeah, like last time.
Last time it was a full two episode thing that we
got
had
rough
to
at
do.
the end.
2
The
episodes.
lottery was rough.
2 episodes, an hour and a half each. We're not going to put you guys through that again. So that being said, we are going to be doing that today. Tom, a big Piston fan, so that's why he gets the number 1 overall pick, because his Detroit Pistons are already on the clock with the first overall pick. But yes, so very excited to be doing that today. Tom, what are your thoughts? Just real quick, thoughts on having the number 1 overall pick for your Detroit Pistons?
You know, I've thought about this a lot in the past few months, and I've thought, what's better, winning the actual lottery or the NBA lottery? I'm thinking the NBA lottery right now. Just having Cade, just hope is eternal. I mean, having a good basketball team is priceless, and we're a step closer with this pick.
Oh boy, he said the magic word there, Mitch.
Wait, you're not taking TCU's RJ Nembhard with the number 1 overall pick?
I didn't say who the first pick was yet. We're
You
still
better
waiting on
find
it.
some wood and knock on it, because you said Cade Cunningham, and there is nothing that
I
has
said
been
Cade?
put
Oh, I
in
didn't notice that.
put in
Ooh, whoops.
stone.
It's already slipping out of your mouth.
That's true.
Oh,
It's been
boy.
Jalen Green.
Oh boy, we are already off the rails.
Well,
Am I on the clock, or how's this going now?
but before we do,
I was
Okay.
literally just trying to buy time until you could fucking
but
spit out
before,
before
I wanted Tom to have his moment in the sun with his number 1 overall pick.
I literally,
Congratulations,
I bought
we're happy
time
for
for
you.
like
No, we're
3
good. Hey,
minutes trying
I was
to get
focusing
to the
so hard to
fucking
not
before we
say
do.
Cade's name, and it just happened anyway. I'm so sorry, audience
already
out
off the
there.
rails.
I
we
know.
went silent, and I was busy sipping. That is my fault. I will take blame. But before we do, we are drinking Sagamore Spirit Rye, which is actually really good. You just showed it to me tonight, Ethan, and I was very pleasantly surprised with it. You want to know a little bit of history behind it? This is where you say yes.
Yes, I would.
Okay. So this is from an article called Breakthrough Bev, which is actually kind of cool. But basically what Sagamore Spirit is that mainly they're very proud of the fact that they're from Baltimore, Maryland. And Maryland was a big time whiskey and mainly rye distributor in what was the time frame? Long time by like 1912s, like the 1910s, 1920s. They were very, very popular. But when World War, oh God, we're falling off the rails already. When World War I came around, they started using their whiskey instead of like making whiskey. They started making ethanol, like for gas, for all their tanks and for all their jets and everything. And so all of the industry in Maryland kind of like devolved. By the time 1970 came around, there's no more distilleries. And then when these guys came around, Sagamore Spirit, in 2012, they came out and they started making this specific rye, and they're the first distillery to come back into the state of Maryland, which is kind of cool. And the way that they do it is they make one whiskey that's like 100% mash bill rye. They make another whiskey that's like a 50% mash bill rye. They distill them separately in their own barrels, and then at the end combine the two, and that's what makes this whiskey right here.
That's super interesting, actually, and not only the history behind the actual like distillery itself and like how it left Maryland and came back and it's bringing whiskey back to a very popular area for whiskey, but also the fact that they make it in two separate like casks almost, and it's very interesting that they make them separately and then combine it into one very smooth bottle.
Yeah, it's like two very, very different individual rye whiskeys that they take that have like very different mash bills of how they're made. And then when they blend them together, it creates what they actually sell as their main spirit with their main rye spirit. And it comes out really well.
Yeah, it does. And we'll get to the taste a little bit later. But for those who are listening, we have just gone to town on the bottle. It is very good. So if you get the opportunity, try a Sagamore Spirit Rye. It is very, very good. And again, we'll duck into the taste here in a little bit, but let's get into this mock draft. Tom, let's surprise none of us here with who you have going number 1 overall to your Detroit Pistons.
I mean, it was never a surprise. It's the guy who it always has to be. It just has to be Cade Cunningham. He's the best player in this draft by a mile in my mind. Just everything he can do. He can score at 3 levels. He's a good defender, underrated defender, and he just fits this roster so well. He can create his own shot, and he can set up everyone else to succeed. And there's just not this kind of talent that comes around very often. And I'm very excited to have the ability to draft him number 1 for my team.
Yeah, I mean, just an absolute stud of a player. Averaging 20 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, 3.5 assists, over a steal and a half game for Oklahoma State in the Big 12. Shooting 40% from 3 on over six attempts a game.
Very
too.
low key.
So a high volume, just an absolute, just all around player, especially offensively. The player comp that I've seen a lot is Luka Doncic, who is the hot topic of the NBA right now. So definitely someone deserving of the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, and I think he probably won't be as good as Luka, but if he can even be just sort of Luka-esque and do a lot of things that Luka does, that would mean so much to the Pistons and just give us so many things that we haven't had in decades of watching them.
I feel like with you guys right now, you got a lot of really solid pieces, like young guys that are good players, like very solid players, but you need the guy.
Yeah.
Who is going to be the guy in Detroit?
Yeah.
And that's why Cade Cunningham has got to be the pick here. A lot of people are trying to vie for the Pistons. Like the Pistons have themselves said that they're still thinking about who they're going to pick. They're not coming out and say like, "Hey, Cade is our guy."
It better be smoke, America. It better be smoke.
But they're like, there's other people that are trying to say maybe you get Jalen Green. Jalen Green might be the most explosive scorer. Maybe you get Evan Mobley. He might be the better two-way player.
Yeah.
But I think that it's pretty safe that Cunningham is the guy in this draft that's like, I think this dude could be a superstar. Everyone else could be good in their roles and could be all-stars, but this dude feels like the most sure thing to be like the leader of a team.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is the guy that could literally be the face of a franchise. There's a lot of good players in this draft, and this draft has been marketed as one of the deepest and like most talent-heavy drafts in a long time. But he is the guy who can walk in and be the face of a franchise from day one. And, it's yet to be seen if he can back it up, but he is definitely the consensus number 1 overall. No matter who had the number 1 pick, he was going number 1. So, again, I would be shocked if Cade Cunningham out of Oklahoma State doesn't go number 1 overall. Mitch, let's move on to number 2. The Rockets are on the clock. Who do you have going number 2?
So I'm playing this as though like I'm the GM. Mitchell Davis is the GM of the Houston Rockets. And I'm playing, GM for a day sort of thing. And the Rockets are in a very weird space right now, right? 1 year past the James Harden thing, trying to find who you are as a team. Like, what is your identity? Last year is like, oh, we traded for John Wall, but John Wall didn't really pan out. But Christian Wood was good, but he was injured. And it's like, do we keep Christian Wood? Do we keep John Wall? Do we try to get younger? Do we try to win now? Because everyone knows that the owner of the Rockets wants to win now. And he does not want to do this rebuild. He's never been about the rebuild. So I'm the GM of the Rockets, and I don't want to lose my job. And so I take the guy that I think is going to help my team the most next year. And I'm taking Evan Mobley.
Wow.
I'm taking Evan Mobley.
Wow.
I think Evan Mobley steps in and is immediately a two-way player. Yes, he's a 7-footer that is incredibly skinny. That is like one of the things for me is like he's so scrawny right now. But I mean, it's one of those things like you look at the pictures of Gobert and of Giannis when they were both 19, 18, 19-year-old, and they were super scrawny. 7-footers fill out as time goes. But he shows a lot of flashes of great perimeter defense along with great interior defense. He can shoot the three. He can also has a nice little touch, a nice little post game on the inside. There's a lot of things that I like about Mobley's game, and I think that if I add him to my team right now with Wood, with John Wall, with Eric Gordon, with Daniel House, that maybe we're making a run for a playoff spot next year. That's my thinking as the Rockets GM. That's why I take Mobley.
And worst case scenario, if he doesn't pan out immediately, just say like, oh, like he's still skinny. Like once he like builds up, so there's some like extra like insurance there too. It's like, well, this might not be like a 1 year thing, but it should pan out like long term when he gets more weight on his bones. So there you go too.
Definitely the best big of the draft.
Oh, by a mile.
By a mile. The 7-footer out of USC, averaging about 16 and a half points a game, about 9 rebounds, 2.5 assists, a whopping 2.9, so 3 blocks a game. So not only, as Mitch said, the great perimeter defense for a big man, but a rim protector as well. And as you said, can shoot the 30% 3-point field goals, unlimited attempts a game. But yeah, he's showed that he can step out and knock down a 3. People are kind of comparing him to the Raptors Chris Bosh, so like older Chris Bosh a little bit. But definitely kind of a player of his own mindset. Yes, very, very, very skinny. The first thing you're going to have to do as an NBA team when you get your hands on him is get him in the weight room and start bulking him up a little bit, because that guy will be pushed around from day one by NBA centers. But yes, a lot of raw talent there, and definitely a guy who can definitely grow into a, very, very, very pivotal role on a championship team.
Yeah, going into this pick, I was between Mobley and Jalen Green, right? I think most people would agree with that. And the way I think of it is Mobley is a floor raiser while Green could be a ceiling raiser. And if I'm the Rockets right now, I'm trying to raise my floor. I'm trying to not be as bad as what we have been, because you have your picks for the next 2 years, and then you lose your picks for many years after that. Right. So it's like you might still be bad next year with Mobley, but like you're going to have some slow progress. Jalen Green could come in and could be a superstar, and he could come in and be a total flop. I think Mobley is at least going to be a solid like starter for my team for years to come.
Definitely a safe pick. Definitely a guy who's going to be a contributor barring injury for a long time in the NBA, as long as he puts the weight on. That is the big thing here, is he's got to put weight on. All right. Well, then, Tom, you're back on the clock. The Cavaliers are on the clock with the 3rd pick. Did Mobley mess up your draft so far, or do you have someone else?
No, because I'm the Cavs GM, and I'm very excited for how this has played out for me, because this solves my lineup issue. But yes, for what feels like 20th year in a row, the Cavaliers have moved up in the lottery. Not mad, not jealous. It's fine. I had the first pick. I'm not mad about this again.
Don't sound bitter at all.
I'm not bitter at all. But if I'm the Cavs GM, I'm like, wow, this solves my problem completely, because now this helps my lineup perfectly. So I'll take Jalen Green at 3. Pretty easy there. Just put him in as a forward with Sexland of Colin Sexton and Darius Garland and Jared Allen, and this sort of helps not the problem that like you have Kevin Love, you have Jared Allen. So like if Mobley was there, that might have been more complicated, but now just fit him right in at 3. It will work out great. He's just a scorer. He can score everywhere. I'm not really sure what else he can do, but in the G League this year, I mean, we could just see him just beating all kinds of just of guys in the G League. It was just, I mean, I was shocked how good he was. I did not know that he could do that. And then I saw his tape and I was just blown away.
Explosive.
Explosive is the word.
Yeah, an absolute electric player. One of the first players to actually commit to going to the G League out of high school. Didn't go to college, just went straight to the G League to get his game ready for the NBA. Averaging 18 points a game, 4 rebounds, almost 3 assists, with a steal and a half a game, while shooting NBA league average 36.5% from 3. Slides right into a Cavs team that needs another scorer. Just an electric player. Very similar. People would compare him a lot to Anthony Edwards of this last draft. Some other player comparisons is a Zach LaVine. Think high flyer. Think big dunker. Flashy player. Definitely going to be a ESPN top 10 type of candidate. But other than scoring, there's a lot of question marks there.
Yeah, there really is. But Jalen Green is one of those guys that he comes to your team. If you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we should throw out there that Cleveland has very openly been trying to sell this pick.
No one wants it.
I
Surprisingly.
don't know if no one
That's fair,
wants
that's
it,
fair.
but I think that
The price has not been right
it's
yet.
a very high price that they're
Yeah.
asking for, which is fair because the
It's a
threshold.
three-man draft.
Yeah, the threshold of this draft is a lot of people are saying like the top 4.
Yeah.
Suggs is that 4th guy, but he's kind of thrown into that top 4
Yeah.
group, right? But if you are the Cavs and you do end up, and I will say either with Mobley or with Green, I think they fit pretty naturally into your system because even Mobley can be the 4 next to Allen if you want, or if it doesn't work, you sell off Allen, right?
Or Love. Hopefully Love. Ideally Love. That would be the best case scenario.
I heard that they're trying.
Well, not fingers crossed for me, but for most of America, yes. For most.
I actually heard that they're trying to package Love with the number 3 pick to try to offload Love, which is a lot
luck.
just to
Good
get
luck.
rid of Love. Anyways, if you end up with Jalen Green, you can either naturally slide him into the 3, keep Sexland, or what I think will happen is they're probably going to move Sexton, keep Green, move Green into the 2 slot.
Yeah.
They really like Okoro because of his
Yeah.
defensive abilities. I think they want to slide
That's
him
good
into
balance
the
there with
3.
Green and Okoro there.
And if I were them, what I think will probably happen, or what I'm looking for to happen, is you draft Green, you trade Sexton to the Knicks, which the Knicks are looking for a guy like Sexton. You get someone like Obi Toppin and a future first and something else from them, and Toppin slides into that now that number 4 spot, right?
Mhm.
So you have a more natural 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like with a lot of potential, young that can grow.
Yeah.
So in an era of positionless basketball, the Cavaliers are going super position
Yes.
ness. So there's that, which is fun.
Bring it back in style. See if it works.
Bringing back just the rigidness of positions. But yes, moving on, the Raptors have the number 4 overall pick. Mitch, you are on the clock here as I almost fall out of my chair.
We're a little cramped in here these days. Just so everyone knows, Tom has officially moved into Ethan's apartment part-time.
Yes, part-time. Very part-time. It just feels a little longer right now for everyone here.
And
It's a
every
full house.
everything Tom owns is inside of this one
It's a little
room right now
dramatic.
with
It's a
us.
little dramatic. Everything that couldn't fit in the storage unit is here with me. Yes.
But yes, the Raptors are on the clock.
The Raptors are on the clock, and I think that there's a 4th guy in this draft that is worth taking here, and it's Jalen Suggs. I love Jalen Suggs, by the way. I love his athleticism, his competitiveness, his ability to score, his ability to defend. He brings a lot to the table. The question for the Raptors is, how are you fitting him into your roster? What is your roster makeup going to look like next year? Because if you draft Suggs, are you going to run Van Vliet, Suggs, Gary Trent, and Anunoby? Because Gary Trent, Suggs, and Van Vliet is super small.
That's assuming Kyle Lowry.
Yeah,
leaves.
that's the big question here.
That's also
I'm
assuming
assuming Kyle
Kyle
Lowry
Lowry
does not
leaves.
come back.
I assume that too.
I think everyone's assuming that, but that's not set in stone yet. And so not the point you're making makes sense, but there's another curveball in there that Kyle Lowry could stick around.
I totally agree. Right now, I'm going with, as the Raptors, I'm taking the best player available. I'm not taking the best fit available. If there's other better fits, maybe you're looking at a guy like Scotty Barnes who can slide right in to be a number 4. If I was the Raptors, what I really want is a center. What I wanted the whole time was Mobley to slide, but instead of having his draft stock slide in this process, he's actually gone up. It's gone up to being a potential they've talked about him at 1, but he's not going 1. But a potential 2-3 prospect as opposed to being a potential 4 prospect. So that's what I really wanted. But now I'm sitting here, I can get Jalen Suggs. He's the best player available, and that's who I'm taking.
Yeah, Jalen Suggs out of Gonzaga, averaging 14.5 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, 4.5 assists, almost 2 steals a game, while shooting 34% from 3. Just an all-around good point guard, a floor general. Was a captain of a history set pacing, whatever, historical Gonzaga team who, broke a ton of records, was very good. Not the best, probably the best player on the team, but maybe not the most important player on the team. That team had a lot of really good players, especially their big men, but played his role very, very well. An all-around athlete, a great football player in high school, actually. Went viral several times for his football abilities. But he is playing basketball. He's in the NBA, and he is definitely going to be in that top 4 area. And I think the Raptors would be stoked to get him.
Tom, you played for your favorite team, Gonzaga. What do you
No,
think about Suggs?
I think it's funny. Like, if he goes to the Raptors, like, I could just see like Nick Nurse just falling in love with him. I think he just like a high IQ guy. I think he can fit. Not really shoots pretty easily there. Just do like a bunch of things he can. He's a dog on defense. He can do enough on offense to help set guys up and get his own basket. I think the transition between the two won't be as bad as some people might think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the question for the Raptors going forward, because in most mock drafts, it looks like Suggs is landing in Toronto.
Yeah.
The question for the Raptors is, what are you doing with your team going forward?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, what does your team look like?
Do you still want to win right now or not?
Yeah, because now it's coming out that Siakam is frustrated and he wants out. Do you try to look to trade Van Vliet? Are you getting a center? Do you re-sign Kyle Lowry? There's a lot of question marks in Toronto right now. But I would say, barring a trade from the number 4 spot, it looks like Suggs is probably going to end up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to the pick number 5. Tom, you are on the clock. The first of 2 Magic lottery picks. So the Orlando Magic are on the clock right now.
So if I'm the Magic at 5, I assume this is probably down to between either Barnes or Bouknight, and I think just sort of going through their tape and stuff. I just like Barnes more. I think he can just offer more. I think he has more upside. But just like watching his tape, he just seems more crafty. He has more moves. He can get to the basket more easily. It's just something that I just see more upside with him. He's better defensively. He can shoot threes better than Kuminga can. I just think he's the better overall player, and that's something that the Magic have shown that they will do in the past. They took Isaac a few years ago too, so they're I'm staying close to home there at Florida State. I just think he's better overall.
Yeah, Scotty Barnes out of Florida State. He's a true forward. Could either play the 3 or the 4. Maybe even some small ball 5 if need be, but I think he's probably more suited for the 3 or the 4. Averaging a little over 10 points a game in college, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, with a steal and a half a game, 50% field goal percentage, which is pretty good from like the 3 spot for the year. Definitely not a lot of shots. He wasn't really the scorer on that team, but he's a good defender,
good ball handler,
a good facilitator, just a good semi point forward, can initiate the offense while bringing some good defensive ability on the other end. People have equated him to a little bit shorter Pascal Siakam a little bit. There's a little bit of Draymond Green to him a little bit. But Scotty Barnes overall a very good player.
Scotty Barnes was also the guy I had going to the Magic. Yeah. Just so you know, it feels like that's a very natural fit. Like, what are you looking for?
Another wing for the Magic.
Well, I mean, they were really wing heavy. The Magic always just pick one position and get really heavy on it for some reason. And so they're really wing heavy, and then all of a sudden they're really guard heavy right now. And they could use a couple of wings right now. So it makes sense. Scotty Barnes makes sense. I don't even know if they would take a center right now. They might lean into Bamba now with Jeremy or now with Mosley as their new head coach. Wendell Carter actually, is definitely a good center, definitely a good power forward. But Scotty Barnes fits that positional need of what they're looking for, which is kind of a 3-4. Can do a little bit of everything. Like we said, he's a bit of a point forward style. He's not a great shooter right now, but he's a high IQ player, super athletic, and that's kind of why I think that if I were the Magic GM, I'm with you. That's where I'd be leaning towards.
He's just like the classic Florida State guy where I think Florida State must have this lab somewhere where they just create these 6'7" athletic raw wings. It's him and Isaac and all these guys, and it was Vassell and Williams last year. It's the exact same mold. They're all so good. They destroy Duke and it kills me every year, but they're so good. I want that so badly.
But yes.
Sorry, that's my tangent.
There we go.
Florida State tangent.
I like Florida State a lot. That's a great program.
Great
program, though.
But yes, so Scotty Barnes.
I respect this program.
A lot of respect, yet a lot of hatred from Tom.
No, it's not hatred. Not hatred at all. That's not Gonzaga. Sorry.
All right, before we go on a college basketball rant, because that's easy for Tom to do,
I'm sorry.
Let's move on to pick number 6. The Oklahoma City Thunder have their first in what seems like a waterfall of picks that will be coming over the next several years. They're in the same position, I think, as the Boston Celtics were a few years ago, where they have so many picks and not enough roster spots.
They have way more than Boston did.
So they have a lot of picks coming up. But this right now it seems like a must hit if you're the Thunder.
See, I will say I do not feel the same way that it must be a must hit.
I'm with you on that one.
Because
it's the opposite.
The guy that I'm leaning towards is the guy that I think in the draft right now has the highest potential and the lowest floor, and that is Kuminga.
Yeah,
It just feels there's not another team that I think Kuminga goes to and Kuminga really succeeds. Because I think he's one of those dudes that needs to go get a lot of play time, get a lot of leash. If not, maybe if he has to go to another team, he's going to be in the G League. I think so. I think he's another G League year.
That roster's bad though.
But that roster is bad enough.
That roster is a G League roster.
That roster's rough.
But you know what's funny is that roster was not doing too bad when Shea was there.
No.
That's why Shea had his air quotes injury. I mean, he got hurt, but it was definitely convenient for the Thunder that he happened to not play the rest of the season.
We saw Poku run the offense. We can let Kuminga run the offense for a little bit, see what happens here.
The Poku Kuminga team is going to be amazing. Just wait, give it 5 years.
He's laughing at us right now because he just has like these advanced metrics that are just gonna just like come back and destroy us in 5 years from now when they're like back-to-back champions or something like that in our face.
Exactly. So I will say, like, Kuminga started off this G League stint with the Ignite really strong. Those first 2-3 games, he might be a top 2 pick in this draft if the season ended after that. But he struggled mightily after that.
Yeah, he really struggled. Like I said, or like Mitch said, in the G League, he was the second guy that really, the second big name out of this draft to come from the G League. Did not play in college, averaging 15.8 points, so 16 points a game, a little over 7 rebounds, almost 3 assists with a steal a game. Only played in 13 games in the G League this year, so limited playing time for him. People are comparing him to DeMar DeRozan, which is an interesting comp. I think he's a little bit bigger than DeMar DeRozan is. Definitely a better rebounder. Like DeMar, struggles with the 3, but he's not afraid to shoot it, really. But a very interesting prospect that the Thunder would be picking here. Like, he's really long, he's really athletic, but just kind of raw. He needs some fine tuning for sure.
I want to throw out there that my ceiling for him, and I actually watched 2 of those first 3 Ignite games. My ceiling for him is Paul George.
I've heard that,
The way he moves, he's very fluid for a 6'8" guy. He moves around the court well, and he certainly has explosive moments and he has really bad moments. And Paul George is the guy that's like, when he's on, he looks amazing. He could be the best player on the court on any given night. He also could go out and be the worst guy on the court on any given night. I think Kuminga has a little bit of that inside of him. And if he could get the consistency, get the shots to start going down, really just flow with the game, catch up to the speed of the NBA game, that is my ceiling comp for him.
I've seen the joke for Kuminga is that he's like the classic guy that's 2 years away from being 2 years away. So that fits the Thunder timeline perfectly. That fits the Thunder timeline perfectly. That's Presti's like right up my. This is great for me, right?
This is the guy that I can.
Right where I want him.
This is the guy I can roll out from like 4 years from now, and people are like, "Oh wait, that guy's still a thing," and then he's really good all of a sudden.
And like, wait, he's still 22. How did this happen?
And let's not forget, this guy was considered to be. They're supposed to be like a top 5 group
This
of
was the
this
guy
draft.
a year ago. Yeah,
He was the other guy in this top 5, and he really fell after that G League, like that little like bubble G League thing that they did.
Yeah, it was. We talked about this earlier, Tom, on the podcast, but yeah, there was a clear 5 that everyone had, and then there was everyone else after that. But after recent things, Kuminga, who was part of that 5, falls to 6. He's jumped by Barnes. So yeah, we have Kuminga going 6. And just to recap real fast, Tom had Cade Cunningham, and then Mitch to the Pistons. Mitch had Evan Mobley to the Rockets. Jalen Green falls to 3 for the Cavs. Jalen Suggs, another Jalen, goes to the Raptors at 4, Scotty Barnes to the Magic at 5, and then Jonathan Kuminga to the Thunder at 6. Let's move on to one more pick till we get to the halfway point of the lottery, and then we'll take a break and talk about this whiskey again. So moving on here to what I think might be the most interesting pick so far in the draft, and probably the most interesting team in the lottery, because for a team that is in heavy win now mode, the Golden State Warriors, they have 2 lottery picks. I mean, a team with a Steph Curry, the MVP candidate, Draymond Green, who's always in win now mode. They're getting Klay Thompson back, hopefully, literally this team is trying to compete for a championship, yet they're looking to add maybe 2 potential role players to this team in this lottery.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably like you said, the most fascinating pick of the draft, because this is where the draft starts, because we have a pretty good idea of what the first 6 picks are, but after this it is wide open, and it could be anybody. And I think like you said too, these guys have to come in now and help out. And I think if I'm Bob Myers looking at this draft, this has to be James Bouknight to me because he can just score immediately. I mean, he can be the 6th, 7th man any night. He can get between like 8 to 15 points off the bench, which is exactly what you need. He has, I mean, he has all the confidence in the world. He can't really do a whole lot else, but if you want someone that will help you this year win a championship, I would say it's Bouknight here for sure.
So that's interesting. I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of Bouknight to the Warriors. Here's my problem with the potential Bouknight to the Warriors thing is if I'm the Warriors GM, I want you like we said, I want a guy that's going to help me right now.
Yeah.
Right. And let's have it be said, the Warriors are trying to trade this pick.
They are.
Oh, the Warriors
very hardly. They
really
want no part of this.
The
pick.
Warriors want
7 or 14, they don't want
no
it.
part of either of their lottery
Yeah.
picks. But as of right now, they are still holding them. We are recording this Monday night.
Yep.
So we're a little early on this podcast. You guys will be hearing this Wednesday morning. So barring something crazy happening tomorrow for us, which will be Tuesday, the Warriors still have picks, 7 and 14. So as of now, the Warriors have 2 lottery picks. I don't think they plan or want to make either of them. But as of now, that is what's happening here.
Yeah. So if I'm the Warriors, right, I think that the most likely scenario is they make both these draft picks. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to package these along with the Wiggins and Wiseman thing to go get a superstar, go get Beal, go get Dame, potentially go get Siakam now. Whatever it is, my guess is that they end up making both these draft picks. Now, if they are, I think that I would be trying to go for veteran experience. I'd be trying to go for guys that fit into roles. I'm looking at guys. Bouknight would obviously be really good as a backup point guard coming off them. I'm a little nervous that he's a little bit redundant with Poole. Like they really like Jordan Poole after what he did last year. I'd be looking at like Davion Mitchell's another guy that they've been talking about a lot.
It was down to those two for me.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that they're also going to be looking at guys like Giddey. Giddey plays a very similar role as to like what Sean Livingston did.
That's cool. I like
you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe a Corey Kispert because he can he just plugs and plays.
Yeah.
Very easy guy. But I definitely see where you're going with the Bouknight thing.
Yeah, Bouknight, a very polished offensive player. I mean, he kind of knows what he is, and he is what he is, which is an absolute flamethrower. A perfect guy to come off the bench as a 6th man, which is what the Warriors need is to bolster their bench a little bit. But, averaging 18.7 points in college at UConn, almost 6 rebounds a game, low in the assist category at 1.8 under 2 for a guard isn't great. But again, he's just a flamethrower. He's a
bucket getter.
You go out there, you put him out there, you expect him to go get some buckets, go get some points. So a very solid pick here. One that I think fills a need, which is what you said that you were picking for, Tom, when you came up with this list. It fills a need of scoring off the bench for the Warriors. And it sounds like Mitch has already gotten into it.
I'm starting to
let's get back
refill.
into this whiskey because
hold on.
we are
gotta get everybody. Only got a little bit left of this. I can give you a little bit of mine, Ethan. Here.
Just top me off there. All right, there we go.
There you go.
Whiskey is all good. We are all filled up on whiskey. So let's get into the taste of this Sagamore Spirit.
Sorry, I'm doing a little ASMR thing here by sipping the whiskey.
You
I
need
just want,
ASM
I just, yeah. We need ASMR Edison. I just want another sip of it. I am having it without any ice right now, and it is really good. It's
so smooth.
So smooth, man.
It's so smooth.
Unsurprising that we killed this bottle tonight.
Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but super smooth. You get a lot of vanilla, but you also get notes of like cherry.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Cherry, and I get like a little bit of cedar in it too, a little woody. How do you like it?
I don't have the palate that you guys have in terms of whiskey. I will say here that
We drink a lot.
I've been living at Ethan's for like 5 days now, and I've had probably a few whiskeys here and there. This is by far the smoothest one that I've had so far this week.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. I had not seen this in the old bar cart until tonight, and I will say it's incredibly smooth. It's got just a little bit of burn, like kind of like right there when you swallow in your throat. It gets a little bit of burn there, but like usually when you drink a whiskey, you can tell if it's really good or bad. If it's bad, it's just like immediately strong and burny. It's like, this is like, oh, and then it's just like kind of a nice little tingle at the end. I like it.
It definitely reminds you it's there on the back end.
Mhm.
It's not like you're drinking water or anything because or it's not like you're drinking, Tennessee honey, which is candy, which,
Still your favorite.
the world knows I love Tennessee honey, but this one definitely, kicks you on its way down your throat, which is, a nice little touch because it is very, very smooth. And it just reminds you you're drinking whiskey a little bit. But in terms of the flavor, I do get a lot of cherry. I do get a lot of vanilla. I do get the woodiness that you're talking about. I'm not entirely sure if it's cedar or whatever it is, but it is.
You
very
don't know
good.
your woods.
Not a wood guy.
Big wood guy over here.
But I will say it is one that I think is made to be sipped on the rocks or neat. I don't think you need to do anything to this one in order to enjoy it. A lot of whiskeys out there, you kind of need to make it into like an old fashioned or something. This one has enough flavor and isn't like just going to punch you in the face to the point where you can't pair it with anything.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I love the story behind old Sagamore Spirit. Very cool how they're one of the very few Maryland distillers now, where back in the day there was 40 plus, and I think that they did a really good job. It's a very, very good rye. Ryes can go bad easily, and I found this one to be one of the favorites I think I've ever had.
Yeah, it's a good rye, and like you said, ryes can be really hit or miss. Ryes tend to be super, super, super like blunt and strong and just kind of aggressive. And this one does a good job of not being that way.
Totally agree.
All right, Tom, any more thoughts on the whiskey before we move on? Mitch is on the clock here coming up with pick 8, but if you have anything else to say about the whiskey.
No, that was a good summary. That's more than I could ever give for whiskey.
Tom's like, yeah, ditto. Yeah,
Same.
whatever. You see that meme?
It tastes like alcohol.
Tastes good. That's all I need.
Whiskey, alcohol,
Gets me
yes.
where I need to go.
Yeah.
A means to an end, says Tom. All right, well, moving on. The Magic have their second pick of the lottery. Again, in this one, they took Scotty Barnes at pick 5. Moving on, they have pick 8. Mitch, where are they going?
All right. So I have a few thoughts with Orlando here. Part of it is, where are they trying to go right now? Who are your superstars? Who are your role players? Who do you feel like is real contributors on your team? They're very young right now. What I think they could really use is shooting. I think that they could use a guy that can slot in as a role player, play a couple different positions, that can kind of just be a solid contributor, whether it's starting or off the bench. And I'm going to pick Franz Wagner.
Wow.
It might be a little higher than a lot of people had him, but I think that he's a very solid shooter. Your Michigan man.
He is a Michigan man. God bless him.
Your Michigan
God bless
man.
him.
He's tall. He fits in at that 3-4 spot. I don't care if you bring him off the bench behind Isaac and Barnes. Isaac and Barnes is not nearly enough shooting for that team, right?
No, absolutely not.
Right? And neither is Markelle, neither is RJ Hampton, and Cole Anthony is very like hit or miss, right?
Yeah.
So I want a guy that can come in and just be a very consistent 3-point shooter and can help my team right now while being young. Wagner's my pick.
The Magic need offensive lubricant. Basically, you need
Yes,
someone that can.
This probably isn't quite that, but that's okay.
You need someone that can
It could be,
score
it could be. That's
without
not fair.
needing the
It
ball.
could be.
He falls into if he can accept the role player role, right?
He is.
He will.
I wouldn't call the greatest offensive lubricant in this draft. I would say that's Corey Kispert, but he's up there in terms of his 3-point shooting. He shot 34% from 3 last year on crazy volume. Shot a lot of threes over at Michigan, especially in a year where their number one player went down. He had to step into a role that he wasn't completely comfortable with.
Went poorly, to say the least. Went very poorly.
I wouldn't say it was
He had a
a
lot of
success.
air balls when it mattered.
I wouldn't say it was a success, but that being said, he was the guy that they asked to do it, and he stepped up and kind of delivered 12.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, 3 assists, over a steal a game. But he's got the tools to be an offensive lubricant, a guy like, not necessarily his game is like Klay Thompson, but a guy like Klay Thompson that can light up the scoreboard without needing the ball in the plays to be drawn up for him. And that's what the Magic really need in terms of to help out their wings that can't really shoot, their guards that are better at penetrating. They need a guy that they can kick to and need be. This is what Mitch and right now that in this mock draft, the Magic are hoping Franz Wagner can be. It's yet to be seen, like I said, but definitely a guy who could go in that direction.
And I will say I lean towards him over Corey Kispert because I think that he can fill a bit more positional need at the 3-4 for them because
he's a much better defender.
Right.
Much better defender.
And they're
Absolutely.
they're going to be stuck with. They're going to be playing a lot of RJ, Cole Anthony, and Markelle at the 1 and 2 next year. So now I want a little bit more 3-4 help, and that's why I'm leaning towards Franz. What can you tell us about Franz being a big Michigan guy?
No, I mean I think at Michigan for that offense, you just sort of need to like fill roles, and there's no, I mean, that team's very unselfish. There's no guy that's getting like 20, 25 points a night. They're all getting like in the teens. I thought he did a good job sort of filling the role, doing his part. He's a great team help defender, which I think will be good for him in the Magic. He can definitely find his role behind some of these other major guys that he'll be getting minutes from. I mean, like he won't complain in the locker room. I think this is good for him because he's not going to be the first option, and ideally he's never the first option on any team. But if he's a guy that just like a French starter, good bench guy, that's a great career for him to have.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, something I said about him earlier is he's going to be the type of guy that like 10 years from now we're going to be like, oh yeah, he's a solid NBA player, and then we're going to look at where he was drafted. He's like, what? He was top 10?
Yeah.
Really?
But sometimes that's what you're looking for.
No one's going to be upset that he's in the league, but people are going to be like, wow, someone picked him top 10, which happens a lot with NBA players. There's a lot of guys that went top 10 who didn't pan out to be the superstar that everyone thought, but still had good NBA careers.
Yeah, sometimes your best value is longevity, and that can definitely be Wagner's thing like in 10, 12 years from now for sure.
Which is funny because he hasn't even been drafted yet. And we're talking about longevity.
He may tear his ACL tomorrow. We never know.
I feel good.
Thinking
good about the
knock on wood though.
Speaking of longevity, this podcast is going to be super long if we don't move on. So let's move on to pick number 9. The Sacramento Kings are on the clock. Another interesting team. You got De'Aaron Fox. You've got De'Aaron Fox. You have De'Aaron Fox, and that's about it. You have De'Aaron Fox.
They have Marvin Bagley. Come on.
They have Tyrese Halliburton.
Come on.
Great draft in 2018.
They got Halliburton.
Buddy Hield's still there. He's
Barnes is still a good basketball player. Hield is still a good basketball player. Rashawn Holmes.
They have De'Aaron Fox.
Who are you? You're the Sacramento Kings GM. Who do you want right now? Who's changing the franchise?
Well, I'm trying to mention this right now. I'll be honest. This is the first curveball of the night because we have seen for days now there have been a lot of reports that the Kings are enamored with Franz Wagner, and I sort of had that sort of pencil in here because I did not think he would go higher than that. I was wrong, so I'm trying to do a quick pivot here. I think looking at the Kings' needs, they could really use a wing, and I think their defense is always pretty bad, just notoriously. I'll take Moses Moody here. No, I'll take Moses Moody.
I knew it. I felt it. I felt it in my loins.
Moses Moody. I think he can do everything. He can do a little bit of like everything off the bench here. If he's like asked to be like that 7th, 8th guy, he can, he has a pretty stroke from 3. He's a very underrated defender. I think he would be a great fit for the Kings, who are sort of weird because there's no like glaring need for this team because they're so mediocre. But I think he could just sort of help out, just do some little things like Halliburton did last year for him for sure.
Totally agree. Love Moses Moody. Ever since they had the Wesley Matthews com from Kevin O'Connor, I've just been like enamored with him.
Oh, God, Wesley Matthews. Wow.
Love me some Wesley Matthews.
Gross.
No, but in general, I mean, I think the Kings have their star in Fox. And you want him to continue to grow, but you want to put the pieces around him, right?
Keep him happy.
Because
they're in Sacramento.
Halliburton is another very, very good player but he's the 2. You got your 1 and you got your 2, right?
Yeah.
Barnes is a really solid player. Maybe you move off of him someday. Rashawn's a really solid player. Maybe you move off him someday. But what I'm looking for right now is a guy to fit into this team. He can be a 3. He can shoot threes off the ball, everybody, and play really solid defense. And that is a perfect pick for me. I had the exact same guy.
Wow, all right.
Yeah. Moses Moody had one of the better conference tournaments that anybody had this year, played really well for Arkansas, is an all-around basketball player. He doesn't necessarily have a hole in his game. He plays good defense. He plays good offense. He plays good with the ball and initiating the offense. He plays good off ball and be able to cut. He's a very underrated cutter. Can shoot the 3 at least decently. Just an all-around player, can fit into a lot of different positions in an NBA game. He's more guardy than forwardy in my opinion, so that raises some questions with the guards that they have in Sacramento. But yes, I would say a very solid pick there.
And that sort of description that you just gave right there is pretty similar to Halliburton last year. And if he's anywhere near Halliburton, then this is a great pick at 10 here or 9 or whatever we're at now. I don't even know.
Pick number 9.
Yeah, 9. Sorry,
we're ripping through them.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Let's move on to 10, which we need to talk about because yes, The 10th
Breaking
pick
news.
has changed. Breaking news, not really. It happened several hours ago.
This
but
is Wednesday too, so even less breaking
Yeah,
news.
you're hearing this several days after this has happened.
Yeah.
But New Orleans Pelicans had pick 10. They traded it in a, I don't want to say blockbuster, but kind of a surprising
Very
move.
It's a big
yeah.
deal today. This feels like a big deal.
The biggest deal of the offseason so far,
Mhm.
which sends Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, and pick 10 to Memphis in exchange for their later pick, which I think was 17.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's
Jonas Valanciunas and his future second-round pick.
so it's
coming
current
to-
second-round pick. So the Grizzlies move up from 17 to 10, and they move up from 50 to 41. Right, so they move up in the first and the second round by giving up Val, and they pick up Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe.
So the Pelicans offload some contracts, get some much-needed cap relief because the Pelicans were strapped for cash going forward, especially with Zion due for a big payday at some point. The Grizzlies move up in the draft, move into the lottery, get the 10th pick. Where are they going, Tom?
Mitch.
Mitch has the even.
I
side.
want to pick.
Okay, go. Where are they
So
going?
okay,
Mitch?
so there's a lot of questions now with the Grizzlies. I had to pivot a little bit or think about what are the Grizzlies' needs? What am I looking for? Because it feels like they traded up for a certain reason. Right? Jonas Valanciunas is the better player. I think that they weren't going to be willing to give him the type of money he was going to command next offseason. But you're losing a year of Val, you're getting Steven Adams, and you move up. Who is the guy that you're moving up for? What is it you're looking for? Well, recently they traded for Justice Winslow, and Winslow did not really pan out for them, right?
R.I.P.
What was the goal for Justice Winslow on their team? It was to be a point forward on their bench. That was like the main goal, do a little bit of creating and be a big, good, solid defender. I think that they're going to go that same kind of route and pick Giddey.
Josh Giddey. For
Josh
everyone out there.
Giddey out of Australia. He's a 6'8" point forward, and he feels out the game very well. He's very athletic for a 6'8" guy. He doesn't necessarily shoot the ball that well, just like Justice Winslow, but it feels like a guy that they can just replace Winslow. And the biggest problem with Winslow is like the fact that he hasn't been able to be healthy. But the Grizzlies fill so many holes with all their young guys already. Giddey feels like the one hole that they're really missing, which is that point forward dude. So Giddey is the dude that I'm taking.
After the trade was announced too, there were a bunch of rumors that Giddey was the guy they wanted 10. So we'll see if that actually pans out now. Just from his tape, though, as much as I love Justice Winslow, and he always has this huge place in my heart from the championship in 2015. Giddey's a much better fit for them for that roster, and he's a much better passer than Winslow is right now too. So I think that's a great pick, just because they have a lot of good defenders on that team already too. That I think Giddey helps get the more offense that they need right now.
And they have a lot of good 3-point shooters, so he doesn't need to
that's true.
light it up. He just needs to
Just
help
find Bane and Grayson Allen.
facilitate to
Yeah.
Bane, Grayson Allen, Xavier Tillman, Brandon
Yeah.
Clark. You got a lot of guys to pass to.
Yeah.
Be the point forward on the bench.
Yeah, he is definitely a underrated passer. Definitely a guy who can come out and help a bench unit, which is exactly what they need in Memphis because their starting five looks pretty good. The Memphis, as I've said before on the podcast, just rolls out like 10 solid basketball players. And they just need a guy to get the ball to good basketball players. And that's exactly what Giddey can do. Coming out of Australia, LaMelo Ball showed that, you can find good players over in Australia. So could definitely, impact. I don't know if he's going to be a star in the NBA, but he's definitely going to be a solid player for the Grizzlies.
Totally agree.
Yeah, same, man.
You ready to move on?
You both leaned into the mic and talked, and then you both backed away from the mic to let the other person talk, and neither of you talked.
We both totally agree. I don't know what you want from us
Yeah.
on this podcast.
Thrilling
All right.
content from Tom and I over here.
Moving on to pick number 11. Tom, you're on the clock. Speaking of LaMelo Ball, the Charlotte Hornets are on the clock at 11.
Yeah, this is a team that's for sure on the rise. This is a very solid starting five that should all be back next year. There's no real huge hole to me on this roster at this point, so I think they can probably go try and take the best overall player with the most upside at this point. And for me, that's Jalen Johnson out of Duke. Even though he's from Duke, he's not my favorite prospect they've ever had. He's for sure had a controversial controversial last 12 months at Duke, but I think his upside is just too tough for them to pass at this point. He reminds me a lot of guys like Bridges that are already on the roster. He's just so athletic. He can just jump out of the gym. I think if they can sort of motivate him to play better defense, that'd be huge for this team as well.
Jalen Johnson is certainly the guy left in the draft that feels like he has the highest potential, right?
His floor is also very low right now because we have no idea what he could be because he did not play defense at Duke. Just a heads up for the Hornets.
Okay, so he reminds me similar of another prospect that came out years ago. Do you remember Perry Jones at a Baylor?
Yeah.
So Perry Jones was supposed to be a lottery pick. He's supposed to be a top 10 pick. But then in the draft process, his stock started sliding and became all the way down to a second rounder. Now, I really liked Perry Jones at the time. He's just like Jalen Johnson, very athletic, 3'4", 6'8" kind of guy. Jalen Johnson to me feels very similar to where it's like, I think that he could be a big boom. He could be a guy that you draft and you're like, oh my God, like I almost think of him almost kind of like Miles Bridges.
So that's
it's like, oh my God, he could be Miles Bridges. But he also could be Perry Jones.
The story the story that you just told is how I thought of him with Bridges because I think Bridges was like a top 3-4 guy out of high school, came to state. He was all right. His stock kind of fell to like the low lottery, and that's sort of where like Johnson is now too, because he was a top 5 recruit going to Duke, and it didn't pan out the way. Now he's like 12 or so. So it's the same thing with Bridges too. I think they're very similar. Their game's very similar. I mean if he's anywhere near Bridges, then this is a great pick at 12 or 11 or 11. It's 11. It's 11.
We're at 11.
We're at 11.
But yes,
I'm doing the odd numbers. Yeah, that hasn't resonated yet with me tonight.
Jalen Johnson, crazy athleticism, a decent basketball IQ, just an all-around good player. Just the big thing for him is motivation.
Yeah,
you got to get him motivated. I mean, he averaged 11 points a game, 6 rebounds, over 2 assists. Almost a steal and a half a game, but he only played 13 games before he left the program at Duke. Thought that he was going to be the next crowned jewel at Duke because every year Duke crowns a guy, and he was going to be that guy. Didn't play the way Coach K wanted him to. Coach K benched him.
Or the way Tom wanted to, but that's okay. More importantly, the way Tom wanted to.
How can he disappoint Lady Man, Tom?
Jalen Johnson took exception, left the program, and just started preparing for the draft. Still a very talented basketball player, a definite NBA player. We'll see if he can just put his ego aside and just play the game of basketball and learn like a rookie should.
I will say, though, that if he goes to the Hornets and if he's getting lobs from LaMelo Ball, his interest and his excitement will probably go back up, and he'll be motivated to play basketball again.
Between PJ Washington, Miles Bridges, and Terry Rozier,
that's a lob
now Jalen
right
Johnson.
That's a little.
That is a lot of lobs that LaMelo can throw.
Yes.
So I'm going to throw this out there.
Jalen McDaniels too could also yam.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw this out there. You mentioned that Charlotte doesn't have like a big positional need. I think that they could use a big man.
Right? I mean, he can get boards. He can get boards, though.
I totally agree. But are you going to roll out a 3-4-5 of PJ, Miles Bridges, and Jalen Johnson? Like, that's tough. Because right now they have Zeller, right? I have one. Okay, so
if you need a big man right now, who do you take over him?
So I'm going to natural transition here.
All right. Ooh, I like this.
Natural transition. I'm the San Antonio Spurs.
Pick number 12 at Spurs. The Spurs are on the clock.
They're laughing at the Hornets now. Laughing at the Hornets.
Laughing at the Hornets.
Those fools.
How dare you pass up the next great Texas big man?
I love this guy. I'm glad you're doing this.
There's
my steal.
I feel like
love this guy.
I feel like Texas turns out a good big guy like every single year these days.
Absolutely.
I'm taking Kai Jones.
I'm talking about him because I love Kai Jones.
I'm taking Kai Jones. So
I love Kai Jones.
I actually in my mock draft I had Charlotte taking Kai Jones because I thought, okay, we need a big man. We could use an athletic guy, a lob threat next to LaMelo. I do really like the Jalen Johnson pick because I think that the Hornets are kind of in like, hey, let's take best player and try to like roll them out and see who we can get, right? But as the Spurs, I'm very excited. Kai Jones has slipped to me. I'm really thrilled about the fact that I can roll out DeJounte Murray. I can roll out Lonnie Walker. I can get Keldon Johnson and Kai Jones as like my core. I don't know if Derek White's part of my core anymore. That's TBD.
Oof.
That's TBD. But I got a really nice core. All positions really fit well together. Kai Jones is a very, very good athletic basketball player coming out of Texas.
So, fun fact, I have a list in front of me of what Tom put together this afternoon. And he had Kai Jones going number 8 to the Magic.
I did.
He had him going as high as 8 earlier.
I'm not going to lie because
it changed.
Because I've been doing this thing where
draft one of whatever.
I'm like deleting the picks and I accidentally like erased Kai Jones's name, and I was and like I just like lost his name. So when you said Kai Jones, I was like, oh my god, I had him and I lost him. I would have
He had him at 8.
You missed him.
Well, no, because I bet too, like if he fell this far, like Indiana would be so mad because Indiana would kill for him right now. But yeah, that's I just like watching his tape. I love big men who just try and get up and run the floor, and he runs in transition, and he wants
Hard.
that, like he wants the ball. He will he'll get back on defense. He'll get down on offense, and he can fly too. He's got a great vertical too. I mean, I think he'll be a stud. I think from those who listened to this pod last year, I loved Okongwu out of USC. Just like same energy, same vibe to me for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally get that.
Yeah,
A hustle player for sure. Can knock down the 3. A
Little bit.
38%
Yeah, a
3-point
little bit.
shooter last year, which is a
On sample
huge jump
size, yeah.
because he shot. I mean, small sample size, but the year before and the same sample size, he shot like under 25%. Raised it all the way to 38% for his last year in college. I mean,
Gotta love progression.
A guy that can, put that together in 1 year. I mean, yes, the 3-point in the NBA is harder, but it shows that he can at least attempt to stretch the floor, and he's got a stroke. Averaged almost 9 points a game. A little light in the rebounding category, under 5 with 4.8 rebounds a game, which is a little
You'd wish for
concerning.
more in the Big 12.
Yeah, that's
Which,
fair.
You'd
which
wish
is
for
a
more in the
little
Big 12.
concerning
That's
to
fair.
me
That's a
about
fair
Kai
one.
Jones in Texas, but definitely a hustle player. Definitely I would say the second best true center in the
Absolutely.
draft, and it would be a steal if he fell all the way to the Spurs.
God, the Spurs. You just know the Spurs will just like
Oh,
lick their chops.
they're
to have him there.
salivating right now.
The Spurs
They
definitely
need a
love
big man
that
too,
pick.
so that's perfect for them. That's
Pirtle's not the long-term big man there. He's
yeah. And
just
their
not.
backup is Drew Eubanks. I'm not sure. I know who that is. So
Gorgie Jang, I recognize that name.
Oh, and Luke.
Samanich.
Samanich.
So he's more of a small forward, power forward than a
All right.
center, though. So they could use a
could
genuine,
use Kai Jones here,
center
yeah.
like Kai Jones. If he slips all the way to the Spurs, you're very, very happy about that. If he doesn't, I'm not even sure what they're going with that. But anyways,
Yeah.
enough about the Spurs. Let's
The
move
Pacers
on to
are
your
on the
next pick.
clock. You mentioned earlier that they would be licking their chops for Kai Jones. Well, Kai Jones just went, so the Pacers are
Yeah.
scrambling.
You think
Who
they
knows?
want
as-
Kai Jones as the Pacers?
Dude, they have no big men right now.
What are you
Look at
talking
the
about? They
roster.
got DeMontis Sabonis and Miles Turner.
And
Well, what else you want?
A third
you
one?
need more. You need a roster. I mean, you need like 12 bodies.
That's a very fair point. Who's your next guy?
So as the Pacers GM right now, I'm crying a little bit because I missed out on Kai Jones, and there's no like clear big man for probably like 5 or 6
a
picks.
while. I'm
Yeah,
trying
for
to
a
trade
while.
down now if I'm the Pacers.
Yeah, if I'm the Pacers, I'm really trying to call like the Thunder or something to see if they want this pick or not. But this is tough because this is not how I plan this. to work
I
out the
will
way
say
I
I've
did.
been looking at my mock draft as we've been going on, and as we got to the Pacers, I was like, man, I do not know who I am picking right now.
Oh,
This
It's
is
a
a tough pick because
this is probably
this
the
is like
toughest pick.
Can I
because
say
there
that
was there was also like we mentioned there was a top 4, then there was a top 6, then there was like there's like a top 10 or 12, and we're on pick 13. So now we have no idea. Like there were some solid players, and now we're just crap shooting it.
I'm gonna say that like in my mock, I had Boak Knight falling this far.
So
I had Boak Knight falling to the Pacers.
there's one name that like we probably should say, but I mean the Pacers just aren't his fit either. I think you'll say him next, which we haven't gotten to yet.
I can almost guarantee I won't say him next.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm not.
You
taking
can toss him out if you want.
but I don't think he's going to go to the Pacers. Because
Well,
they don't
what's
need
the
him.
name you're
Well, the
thinking?
clock's ticking
I'm
here.
thinking Mitchell, but he's not going to the Pacers. I don't think they don't need him.
So I will say
Davion
this.
Mitchell out of Baylor.
Yeah.
So you can keep thinking. I'm going to talk about Davion Mitchell. A
Well,
little
no,
bit.
I have my pick now.
You
but
got your pick?
I have.
Okay, go ahead.
So
and
this
take
is
your
going to be
pick.
a weird one. I have Usman Garuba from Spain. I think he would be a great fit because their backup power forward right now is Doug McDermott, which is not good. Which is that is a bad idea.
Big buckets.
You need some size. You need some athleticism. Garuba will not score, but he will play defense every possession. He is a dog on defense. I think from like watching his tape, I think he's the best defender in this draft. He was flying across the court, and I think he would help the Pacers a lot on that end of the court.
So like
Usman Garuba from Barcelona. Or
you
no,
just
not
said out of
Madrid.
Real Madrid.
Real Madrid. I'm sorry. Usman
You said the
Garuba.
best defender in the draft.
Probably.
I would agree with you there.
His tape
He
is wild.
is all over the place. He is long. He is tall. He is big. He's athletic.
He has some chunk.
Yeah, he's
Chunky
got some.
boy.
He's got
some Draymond Green vibes.
he's got some
Chunk.
beef to him. He's got some beef to him. But I was gonna say very Draymond Green esque
Yeah,
like
Draymond
beef.
Grass.
Ooh, I like that.
He offensively, there's not a lot there. Only 4 points a game, 4 rebounds, less than an assist. But and less than a steal and less than a block a game too. But his on-ball defense is just dog-like. He's off-ball defense is all over the place. He's tipping the ball a lot, maybe not necessarily getting the seals, but tipping the ball a lot. He's just the type of guy that like every time he's in the possession, like every time there's like a play that happens and he's involved, he's making good things happen.
Hustle.
If you're on offense, you need to know where he is at all times because he can either block a shot or steal a pass at any moment.
Hustle.
He has a motor.
He has a motor. He's a walking motor.
Yes.
Right. The comp that I'm stealing from Kevin O'Connor here is Kenneth Fareed.
Okay.
So I don't think he has as much bounce as Kenneth Fareed.
That's why
he's a bit more chonky, right? But the hustle that Kenneth Fareed had an NBA career for one reason, is because he tried really, really hard on every single possession.
He was a small power forward. He was
exactly.
He's
like a 6'8" guy.
6'6".
Yeah. Well, he was like a 6'7", kind of like 6'7", 6'6" kind of guy. But Garuba's like 6'8". But like the hustle, if you try every possession, there is a place for you in the NBA, which is weird enough to say. If you just work hard and try, you can definitely make a spot. And I can see where the Pacers could use a dog, right? Like they're a good team, a lot of talent, like they got a lot of talent in a lot of places in Indiana, but they struggled really mightily this year. Maybe they could use a guy that's a total dog like Garuba. I will say, so I had Kai Jones going to the Hornets. I had Garuba to the Spurs.
Okay. I had that too. I had Garuba to the Spurs too. That's
really
like a Spurs vibe too.
It really is a Spanish guy.
But I think I think for this pick too, I think Carlisle would love Garuba because he will be a dog. He can help on defense too for sure.
Yeah, and Carlisle does
vibe.
love
it really is.
defenders.
He loves guys that try hard. That's why Dwight Powell gets paid $11 million a year right now.
That's why we gave Wesley Matthews the max. Oh, you don't have any Achilles? Don't worry. You can try hard and make $60 million a year.
Let's give you money.
Anyways, we've got one more pick left in the lottery. It is the Warriors coming back up to the clock. Again, as we said earlier, they don't want to make this pick, but we're making them make this pick until they trade it. Mitch, where are they going at 14?
Okay, so I know that most people are going to assume I'm going to pick Davion Mitchell here. I'm not.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm going to throw that out there.
That was my pick.
So I'm not. I want to say really quickly, I really love Davion Mitchell's game. I think that he is going to unfortunately slip a little bit into this draft. I think that he's one of the guys that's in danger of that.
This is not like anti-Baylor or anything. Like he's a dog.
He's good.
He has the best,
very good basketball
He has the best nickname in this draft by a mile and off day. That is a badass nickname, which needs to be respected. That is an awesome nickname. I think he's a little undersized. I've like read that like his stock is falling. This is not like anti him at all. I think he's awesome. I love his brother. I mean, this has nothing to do with him at all.
But so where I'm gonna go is I think that they need help. Like Davion Mitchell would be a good pick right now, but I want to go for a guy that gives you a little bit more length and a little bit more defense. And I'm biased.
I knew it.
I'm picking Duarte. Chris Duarte.
Klay Thompson 2.0.
Yes, out of University of Oregon, 6'6". He was the main ball handler for Oregon throughout that entire like run, right?
Yeah.
And he was also playing small forward. He was also guarding the best defender. He was also the best shooter. He plays off ball really well. He is the guy that you put on your bench and I think like you trust him a lot. So if in theory, this is how your draft goes. Who do we end up taking at 7 for Boak Knight? So you got Boak Knight at point guard. You've got Jordan Poole playing the 2. And then you've got Duarte. You've got Juan Toscano Anderson. That's a really solid bench. That's a lot of guys that I think you can trust going into this next season where you're hoping that you can compete again. And that's why I really like Duarte.
Yeah, definitely a good shooter. Definitely a good offensive player. A dog on defense. I mean, not the Usman level dog, but a very good dog on defense. All around a good player to add to a bench that can, help them contend. But that leaves a couple of big fallers. You touched on one, which is Davion Mitchell falling out. We didn't have Kispert in the lottery either.
No, he's been interesting because
Corey Kispert out of Gonzaga.
I can see him going to the Warriors at 7 or 14. By the way,
yeah,
either one.
I think too. His stock has been kind of fun to watch because at probably March it was probably in the 20s, and then it's gone to the top 10, and now it's back down to the teens. So this is sort of probably the right range because his stock has fluctuated the most of probably any prospect I've seen in this draft.
Yeah, it's it's definitely fun to be like, okay, so which team is going to take the guy that's definitely not a superstar, but it's definitely
But will
not
shoot, like,
terrible,
yeah,
right?
he
Like,
will make
He's
the
got
rounds.
a very low ceiling and a very high floor.
It's
like-
a guaranteed bucket getter, but it's just not. That's kind of it.
it's like, who wants to draft Kyle Korver? Who wants him? Someone somewhere is going to take him, but who's the team that finally pulls the trigger?
Who
It's like,
wants Joe
look,
Harris?
I know he doesn't suck, and I know he's not going to be amazing, but he's going to be okay for us.
Yeah, I think this is good for him too, because like when we get to like those like early playoff teams who need some bench guys that can shoot threes, he'll fit right in there too. So
Yeah,
that's fine.
he'll slide in.
He'll
and
be
have
in a better
long
spot,
NBA
probably a little
career,
lower. Yeah.
Definitely, he is. What I think the Magic were hoping in this mock draft, at least Franz Wagner will end up being. But yes, Corey Kispert, Davion Mitchell, probably the two biggest names that don't make the lottery in our mock draft. Do we have any big sleeper picks that are left that we that you guys feel compelled to talk about?
I'll let you go first.
So I only have one that I'm sort of like focused on, because I want the Pistons to take him desperately in the second round. It's Joe Wieskamp out of Iowa. He can rain, and I want that on the Pistons so badly. Just like they have 3 second rounders. Just take him once. Just that's all we need. He can rain. He was known as the combine hero. I want him badly. He's like a 6'8" guy, and like shooting is so valuable. And I am so certain that he'll just drain threes. So I'm in on him.
So, okay, so here's a guy that I actually didn't mark before, but I just thought about. I was like, how come no one's even talking about Garza?
He's chunky. That's why.
I mean, yeah, he's chunky, but the guy can play basketball. Like, I would love to take a flyer on
It's
him in the
kind of-
second round.
I think
Garza being the
Luka Garza out of Iowa.
yes,
His-
but being the like
National
NCAA Player of the Year, winning the quote Heisman of college
So
basketball,
his thing for me
is maybe going to get drafted.
I think he will get drafted.
He might go in the second round.
My comp for him is Jahlil Okafor, because he has no vertical and he'll just live in the post, and he doesn't want to play defense.
I could
That's my
live,
problem with him.
you know what? If he could turn into Ennis Cantor, I could live with
I
that.
don't think he would be in this.
And his
okay,
cantors
I don't know.
don't grow on trees. dude.
Okafor,
Guys who get 20-20
I
games
think
in the
he's
NBA don't grow on
I think
trees.
he's Okafor 2.0, but I mean that's a career in the NBA still. That's just not good. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
So that's totally fair. So, but I didn't even think about him literally until just right now.
I had
So
thought of him
I want
'cause,
to put that
like,
out there.
His big thing was like him losing weight, but he's still overweight apparently. So I don't
Yeah, I get it. So the two sleepers I really have that I think are going to be second round picks that I think are going to be solid contributors for a long time in the NBA is Ayayi.
Yeah,
Joel
I like him a
Ayayi
lot.
from Gonzaga. To
Smart.
me, seems like a very solid
High IQ
2-3,
player, yeah.
high IQ, solid defense, good 3-point shooter, everything you want in a role player. The other guy is Dacian Nix, who was the G League Ignite point guard. He's He's a 5-star guy. He's supposed to go in the second round right now. Super high IQ, great passer. That's his thing. Is like great passer. I could see him at this is like his floor to me is Tim Frazier. He's like he could be in the league for a
Tim
while,
Frazier.
just being like a point
He'll
guard that
bounce
rolls
around.
around and plays really good like team ball and
He was a
passes the
Piston
ball.
for a minute.
But like he was a
Yeah.
5-star athlete for a reason. Like
Yeah.
I think that if you draft him in the second round, you're getting a very like high level person with like a pretty high floor, but maybe the ceiling is leveled.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the much anticipated Ladies Man Tom plus Mitch Davis mock draft. The lottery edition. I don't think we'll get to a post lottery edition given the draft's on Thursday. So you guys will be hearing this Wednesday. So the draft's tomorrow, guys. Tune in and watch. Tom will either be really drunk because he's happy or really drunk because he's sad.
Wait for all the Piston memes that come out on our Twitter account from
Yeah.
old Tom.
There's a rumor on the street that the Team Rock Twitter could be back this week, so we'll see.
So for those who don't know, Tom runs our Twitter account here over at Team
Allegedly.
Morale.
There's
There's a lot of moving parts to
numerous
Team
people who
Morale,
have
and he
access
is
to the
one of
account.
them.
Numerous people have
So
access to the account.
very happy to have Tom join us and to bring back the Ladies Man Tom, Team Morale mock draft, the lottery edition. Thank you for joining us, Ladies Man Tom. We'll sure have you on another podcast. Hopefully it won't be a year from now. We'll bring you in before that. Mitchell Davis, as always, another one done. Moving on to the next. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.